everyone, and welcome to an episode of Growing Kentucky's Leaders. We have a great guest today. We have Amelia Tucker on the podcast. Amelia is the 2023-2024 Kentucky FFA State Treasurer. She is completing her freshman year at Western Kentucky University, and she was a member of the Apollo FFA chapter. So, Amelia, welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself. Tell a bit more about who you are.
Yeah, like Miss McKinney said, I'm currently serving as the Kentucky FFA State Treasurer. I grew up on my family farm in Calhoun in McLean County, but I went to school in the Davis County School, so I graduated from Apollo, where I was an FFA member. Here on the Hill, I'm currently an Ag Ed major and just looking forward to really diving into that and being able to continue to impact Kentucky students and FFA members long after my time in the Blue Jacket.
Amelia, anyone who knows you knows that you love FFA, and it really is a part of who you are and who even raised you. And I think it's important that you have a chance to share with our audience, what is it that really inspired you to become a state officer?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had this conversation with members a lot, and I always like to kind of joke that I have two answers. And so I have my first answer and my real answer. And so my first answer is I remember being a very, very little girl sitting at state convention and seeing the state officers run up to start the session, because my dad is an ag teacher. He has been for just about 30 years. And so that was just a super, super special memory, right? To be able to be growing up and see those state officers run on stage and be like, that is super cool. Like, I want to do that too. And then, but I like to say my real answer was when I started my freshman Principles of Ag class at Apollo with Miss Debbie Muse, and I got to learn more about the different regions in FFA and FFA history. And then they were like, and after you graduate, you could become a Kentucky FFA state officer and get to see all these members in all these regions and get to impact their stories. And that was just the moment that it was really like, okay, this is like actually something that I want to do. So it wasn't just like a little girl's dream anymore. It was real, and I actually started working towards it. So those are like my two answers, I like to say.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that is great, Amelia. You have Ruth Ann's also an advisor's kid, and you all have so many unique experiences because you got to witness so much from such a young age. It's pretty special. So tell people who may not know a lot about being a state officer, what are the roles and responsibilities of serving?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like a lot of times with state office, when we immediately think of it, we think of convention and we think of being on stage there. And then the next thing, at least my mind goes to, is interacting with members in the form of chapter visits. I've loved my chapter visits this year. I like giving workshops, just really appeals to like the future teacher in me. I love to like write out the plans and get all my materials prepared. So I really enjoyed that, and that's a big part. But I think another really cool job of state officers that I know you all work with at the foundation is getting to have interactions with sponsors, like our industry tour we went on earlier this year that you all set up for us, where we got to kind of travel down the river and meet with different sponsors who support our members. And just that was really, really special. And I think another thing that some people might not think of when they think of a state officer is like the background work. Like that's been honestly some of my favorite stuff. Getting ready for convention and writing all the speeches and gathering ideas and thoughts and just getting them all together. I'm a planner at heart, so I've really enjoyed like the background work of it and getting everything ready. Like I think it'll be really, really fulfilling for me when I get to see all of our members enjoying the hard work like that we've put in, whether on screen or off screen, getting things ready. I'm really excited for it.
Well, I would also say, Amelia, that you are a cheerleader of people.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
something they caught out of you, is that if a member does something, you're sharing it on your social media. You are sharing the work of the foundation all the time. You are just a fantastic ambassador for what we're doing and helping share our message and our impact. And we're grateful for you.
But thank you for that. I think the story of Kentucky FFA members and the story of our foundation is just so important to share. Like it means so much to me. Like I know it means to the two of you, and like I know it means to so many of our members across the state. And kind of the outlook I've looked on previously this year and this whole year is that like I've been given this gift to being able to serve Kentucky FFA, and what I do with the gift is like the way I'm paying it back. And so I need to be, at every moment, need to be giving everything back to Kentucky FFA. And I think sharing our story is just a little piece of that to me, at least.
Well, and Amelia, you have done that so well, and I hope FFA members are watching you and looking at this is what leadership can look like and should look like. And we just thank you for being such a great mentor to people younger than you, but people older than you too that are watching. So you're just so wonderful, and we're glad to have you as a guest today. Talking a little bit more about state office, you are nearly towards the end of this wonderful year of service that you've gotten to kind of talk about how much it's meant to you. As you look back on, this whole year that you've got to experience, what are some of those most impactful moments that come to mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So thinking really way back to the beginning, this is honestly kind of like a silly little moment, but it's the thing that sticks out in my head. Immediately after we got elected, we go backstage and we're getting all these instructions about what we need to do. And there was just kind of this moment that we definitely were supposed to be listening to what was being said to us, but we were all just kind of so overwhelmed. And it was this giant, like, group hug moment, and I remember very vividly one of the only things I remember from that little time period after getting elected is that Jackson, our vice president, said, "This is great, I can hug everybody at once." And so in my brain I was like, this is great. Like I'm just gonna hug everybody at once this year. I'm just gonna hug all of Kentucky FFA the whole year long. And so that was something that kind of stood out in my brain. But once we got to interact with members and have an impact there, I really think of my time at camp this summer. I got to luckily spend time with 4 chapters from my region at camp. And then I also had so many chapters from other parts of the state as well. And so I really think a super impactful thing then was I got to do the ropes course with Henderson County FFA, and that's right there in the heart of my region. And so they actually picked me up by my feet and pulled me over a big wooden wall. And I'd like to say that there is nothing you can't do with FFA members if you let them pick you up and pull you by your feet over a wall. And so I think that that just really has been like kind of a silly mantra in the back of my mind throughout the year. Like, there's nothing I can't do because they picked me up and pulled me over this wall. And so just getting to interact with members and hearing all of their stories and kind of keeping those 2 things in the back of my mind throughout the year. That I can hug everybody at once and there's really nothing I can't do with them.
Yeah, that's so good to hear that there is a lot of impact even in those littlest moments. I think a lot of times in FFA we think about being on stage and having the spotlight on us and the trophies that we hold, but so much of that impact in our own growth comes from those little moments. So thanks for reminding us of that.
Amelia, you have been a joy to work with this year. Your character, your personality, I would describe you as magnetic and authentic. You are authentically you, and you really draw people to you and make people feel seen. So what are some core values that drive you and make you who you are?
Yeah. So when I think of the core values that drive me, we kind of looked at this at the beginning of the year with our state officer training. For those that don't know, we spend about a week together with a trainer from National FFA and really get to dive into what it means to be a servant leader and what it means to lead in our organization on both the state and in the national level. And so that was a really cool time. And we kind of looked at our values and what we believe then to really be able to impact members later. The kind of thing we went with is it's about us now, so it can be about them later. And that was really, really cool. So when I think of like my core values and the things that are important to me, one of the things that really, really sticks out is recognizing others. So I know we've kind of talked about that a little bit, but that's something that I think I share with a lot of my team, that we all really value highlighting others and highlighting our members. And so that's something we've definitely strived for in this year, to bring more recognition to our members and just be their cheerleader and be a platform for their voices. So definitely recognizing others is something that I value. And I also just value kindness. Like, I am the kind of person, and it means a lot to me when somebody just does the smallest thing like for me. Like, I went to Franklin Simpson Middle School's banquet last Friday night, and they just gave me a card that their officer team had signed. And they were like, "We are so grateful for you taking time out of your schedule to be here." And I was tearing up in my car as I opened up this card. I was like, this is so precious. And so because I know how those little moments of kindness mean to me, I make it like a point as I go throughout my days, especially when interacting with members, that I show them the same amounts of little bits of kindness that I would want shown to me.
I love that. I'm gonna throw one more question here, Amelia, kind of about your year. And I think we've talked about how you so well exhibit confidence in who you are, and you lead in that way. And it's a joy to watch and be around. I think that's what makes you so magnetic. So what would you say to younger FFA members or people growing in their leadership journey to encourage them to be confident in who they are and lead in that way? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I definitely think that in order to be confident in who you are, and I appreciate the fact that you all feel like I am. I definitely don't always feel like that, but in order to feel confident about who you are, you have to know who you are and like sit with that. And so I spend a lot of time, I've spent a lot of time, especially when I was going into the process of running for state office, considering like who I am and who I am not. And so I had to know what I was good at and what wasn't maybe my best qualities or my best strengths. And so I definitely think that once you know who you are, then you can jump full force into the things that really build up who you are and support that, and then dip your toes into the things that are a little more stressful for you. Just to give an example, I am the kind of person that like getting up in front of people and just having a panel or conversations just with a whole group, not a struggle. I could do that any day of the week. But what I struggle with is like, my mom and I refer to it as like things where you don't have a job. Like I am great at having a job, but you put me in a room with like 3 people and just leave me there and you're like, just talk. Like, this is really stressful for me. Like I don't know what to say. So, but so in this year, I've been able to exercise my strengths in talking to groups and talking to members, and also been able to grow my skills in small talk and making connections on a smaller group level, which I think has really, really been impactful to me. So you have to know yourself to be confident and know who you are, and then dive in to the things that you're good at and dip your toes into the things that are more of a struggle. So you like build, like you're like exercising those muscles and building up that strength and getting better at it as you go. And I think when I do that, or when members do that, it just makes you feel more comfortable, because most likely I can have conversations with people, like I know that I can, but I just get in my head about it. So when I view it that way, I don't get in my head about it. And I don't think our members would either if they tried it that way too.
That's great advice.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense, Amelia, after you say that, because you do great with the job. If you have a job, like you run and go with it. And it's interesting that have so much insight about yourself at your age. I don't think I had insight about myself at your age in that place. So you are leaps and bounds ahead in recognizing your strengths and weaknesses and growing in your weaknesses too.
Yeah. Well, Amelia, we always ask our guests on the podcast the same 3 questions. This is some of our like personal favorite parts to kind of get an insight of who our guests are at another level. And the first question is, what is the best piece of leadership advice you've ever received?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best piece of leadership advice that I've ever seen, I really was racking my brain trying to think of like, what is exactly what I want to say to answer this question? Because as a podcast groupie, I was well aware that these were coming. And I know I just mentioned my mom, but I think the best advice when it comes to leadership I got from my mom. She's so wise, and we're like the same person in 2 different bodies. I love her so much. But she always says to me, Amelia, it is hard to be nervous when you are helping somebody else. And so for me, as I go throughout those times where those little conversations are hard to me, or I don't feel like I know what's going on, like social situations aren't always my best spot, I remember that in the back of my mind, that it's hard to be nervous when I'm helping somebody else. And so that's kind of like the mantra I've taken on this year, right? That I can, like, I might not know exactly what I think I need to do, but if I can find somebody that I can make feel better, or if I can find somebody who just needs a friend, then I'll forget about anything that I'm nervous about, because I'm going to go all in on helping them. And so I definitely think that that's the best advice I've ever received when it comes to leadership, because it's just not about me. Like when I take my brain out of it and I'm like, no, Amelia, this has nothing to do with you. It's all about the members. Then that's just really helped me. And I think it'll continue to help me as I go on into the next chapters of my life as well.
Absolutely, it will. Yeah.
That's great, and I'm glad that you said this will help me in the next chapters, because sometimes our FFA jacket is a little bit of a suit of armor. Like, I can do incredible things when I'm in this role as a FFA chapter officer or a state officer or whatever that looks like. But for students who are listening to this in their classroom, or adults listening to this and learning about that, having that attitude, no matter where you are, of I'm serving others. It's hard to think about me when I'm caring about other people. Man, that's a gift if it can transfer on down. Yeah. Okay, so podcast groupie, if you know the next question, it is that the Kentucky FFA Foundation, we're all about philanthropy and giving back. Philanthropy can look like giving time, talent, treasure. And so we just want to ask you, who's someone that you would like to shout out, who's really poured into you and your growth?
Yeah, absolutely. To begin, I definitely want to shout out my parents. I like to say that they never pushed me, but they always supported me. Everything I've ever done has always been my plan and on my time, but they've always been right there beside me. I might be the podcast groupie, but I like to say they're mine. They're always following me around, taking me to the things and making sure I have what I need to succeed. But more than that, I'd love to shout out Miss Kathy Skinner. She is a woman that is in my community. She was my elementary school lunch lady. And Miss Skinner has just been so instrumental in my life, and it's just such a positive part in my life even now. She has my address for my dorm. She sends me cards for all major holidays and when she's thinking about me. And she's just the absolute sweetest. We call ourselves Miss S and Miss T. There is nobody who does better at a Bible school than the two of us. We've got it going on. And so she just has always been a bright spot in my life and just continues to celebrate me and cheer me on, even if it's just over Facebook in the comment section after a chapter visit. She is always a big cheerleader of mine who definitely didn't have to be. She wasn't a part of, she's not like, she's, you know, I like to say my parents don't have to cheer me on, but we do live together. But she doesn't have to be a part of my life, but she's kind of chosen to keep me. And so I'm definitely grateful for her impact and her just Christ-like voice in my life.
It's so special when you get to almost like be raised by a community, and I'm glad you've gotten to experience that. Well, Amelia, our last question we always ask our guests is kind of an off-the-wall question, but what's something that you're loving right now that's really helping you grow? Could be anything.
This was not a hard question to think of the answer from. I got this one automatically. So in this year, I have taken on the task of scrapbooking. It's about this thick now, but it is this navy blue scrapbook, and I have printed out pictures from the very first day, like our election. I made that like that night. Like I printed it out on the way home. Like I am dedicated. And so I kind of use it as a reflection piece. Like I get to go back over my chapter visits and see what I took pictures of and cut them out and lay them together. And it's also a really cool thing that it is a job. We know I love jobs, but it's not a job that has a deadline, and it's just something that I can really do for me. And that's a really special thing about my scrapbook that I've loved to see is at the beginning of the year, I was in like every picture, right? Like there were pictures other people had taken and I was using them. And now as I flip through my scrapbook, I can go like 3 pages and I don't pop up, because it's all about the members that I'm taking the pictures of and all about highlighting their special moments. And so I love to flip back through my scrapbook and see where we've been. And I love the idea that the pages aren't done. So I can't wait to finish up the scrapbook and have it after convention this year. And I can't wait to bring it back to our reunion conventions and let the rest of my team look at it then. And more than that, I can't wait to one day have it in my classroom. So when a student says, like, what was it like to be a state officer? You can be like, I got it, like right here, like this is what it was like. And so that's something that's really helped me this year and really allowed me to reflect on my time as a state officer and just allowed me to memorialize those moments. And it's something I've really, really enjoyed. Definitely loving it right now.
Oh my goodness, Amelia, I have 2 thoughts about that. One is when I was around high school a long time ago, scrapbooking was like the rage. Everyone was scrapbooking, and we had my ag teacher hosted scrapbook parties. That's how much everyone was scrapbooking, and I haven't scrapbooked in a long time, but I think that's awesome. Lawrence Hall was the state FFA president in the 1940s. I'm not certain of the year, so I won't say, but he was a donor, one of a great donor to Kentucky FFA, and one of the first major gift donors I ever worked with. And I would take our state president to visit with him every year. He lived in Elizabethtown, but he had a scrapbook from his state officer year that was from the 1940s. It was a huge, big wooden binder that had like a FFA emblem engraved on the front, and then all of his things. And it's one of the most historically relevant documents that I've really ever got to see. It needs to go in our archives because it's incredible. He had communication from our state secretary, giving them directions on where to be and how to do that. And at that time, it was a letter. They mailed you a letter to your house to say, you need to be at the Kentucky Farm Bureau office on this day. Here's the hotel we'll stay in. Here's who we're meeting. He had kept every letter of communication he had received.
Wow.
He had kept photos from officer visits. So some of that is historically how I know that the Kentucky Association of Electric Cooperatives was a sponsor in the 1940s, because he had photos from his visits and communication and things that they gave him as like a token of being there. And so your scrapbook, it's very, very meaningful to you, but maybe we have the internet now, so it is a little bit different. But it may become a historical document, and it's awesome to pour that time into that. You will not regret documenting those times for sure. Well, Amelia, thank you so much for being with us today. I can't wait to share your episode and for everyone to just get to see what a light you are. And thank you for all you've done for Kentucky FFA members this year. It's your generosity of spirit and enthusiasm and kindness. It definitely has shown through, and we've really appreciated it.
Well, thank you all for having me. I got to say, when I got the email that you were going to have me on the podcast, I did myself a little happy dance sitting in the parking lot in my car. It's like, this is going to be the most fun, and it was. So thank you all for all you do for Kentucky FFA and our members and our team, and thank you for having me on here today.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. Well, thank you all for joining us on this episode of Growing Kentucky's Leaders. We'll see you next week. Growing Kentucky's Leaders is a podcast brought to you by the Kentucky FFA Foundation. Our music is performed by Bourbon County FFA member Joe Fritch. Artwork is by Julie Fritch Creative. Your hosts are Sheldon McKinney and Ruth Ann Fink, and you can find us on all social platforms at Kentucky FFA.